What is going on, everybody? I'm Tyler, and welcome back to What Would Tyler Do? And in this situation, what would Tyler do if you need to heat your wood shop? As you guys probably know, my workshop is in the back portion of a pole barn. Right now we're in the outside portion. There's Jonathan, and it is insulated. The walls are insulated, but the roof, as you might be able to see up there, is not insulated. So we built this wall right here, which is insulated, and then we insulated above the shop section, which as you can see is right back here. So my shop is 16 by 30. This is not a shop tour. I want to talk about heating it, but it kind of gives you an idea of the square footage that we need. So how do I go about heating and cooling and keeping the moisture controlled in the shop? Because that's important for the wood, and it's important to make sure the tools last a long time. I do that with a mini split. Now you guys have seen this mini split in the back of many of my videos, all of the videos that are here in the shop. And what is this? So what is a mini split? Now in your house you typically have a split system. You have an air conditioning unit outside and you have your heater inside, and they do work in conjunction with each other because you have the cooling coil in that heat duct system to cool. Now this is called a mini split because this is your indoor unit and you have a unit outside that does both the heat and the cool. The heat with the heat pump, and the cool, it uses that radiator as before. Now, it doesn't have to look exactly like this. You can get a square unit that kind of mounts on the ceiling, kind of flush with the ceiling, and you can also get multi-zoned mini splits. I believe you can get a single unit outside and up to 4. But if you're going to go for something like that, I highly recommend you do your research. When I first put this in, a lot of people asked me questions. I said, well, let me run it a little while. Someday I will give this mini split a bit of a review. It is, I did just turn it on for the first time in a couple of days. We've got some nice warm heat coming out of here. And I want you to just listen because this particular unit, which is a GREE model, G-R-E-E, has a turbo mode. So just listen up. It's pumping heat out right now, and it's still very quiet. I can do video in this shop when it's on turbo mode or when it's on regular mode with no audible side effects. So just listen up real quick again. Not sure if you can hear that or not. So I'm going to grab my remote. This is what comes with the unit. This is where you turn it on and off. You can control the fan speed, you can control turbo, turn it to air conditioning mode, turn it to heat mode, and etc. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the turbo button and turn that off real quick. We should hear it kind of quiet that fan speed down. There we go, if you could even hear it. So now it is not in turbo mode. That just pumps up the fan speed, pumps up. It seems to tighten the tolerances is what I've really discovered is what that does. So if I want it to 60 degrees, it'll be much closer to 60 degrees versus going to like 64 and down to 56. So whatever that window of tolerance is for what I set, when I put it into turbo mode, it seems to tighten that up. So what do we want to talk about? The lowest this one goes down to on the heat mode is 62 degrees. So that's the lowest I can heat to. So if I want to heat to only 50 degrees, I can't actually do it with this unit as is. We'll get to something that fixes that in just a minute. Now, there's a few reasons why I went with this GREE model. And the biggest was it has a higher percentage of heat when it gets cold out. So we live in Michigan, so the return on the electricity you put into heat is better than other units as it gets colder. So this still had like a 85 or something % efficiency rating. That's the word I was looking for when it's 7 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And that happens in Michigan. So I wanted something that would be efficient, and that led me to this one. And this one also has something called an anti-freeze mode that you can set it in, and that will lower that heating temperature from a minimum of 62 to 46. But that's the only options you have. So if you want it to be 46, it will hold it at that, which is important. If I know it's going to get cold outside, I can set that anti-freeze on, and it will keep my finishes from getting ruined here in the shop. And with the way the shop is insulated, I do know that I can not run this at all, and in this shop, again, no heat at all. If it's like 14 degrees outside, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm good. It'll be about 35 degrees here in the shop, and it doesn't fluctuate from that. But if I know it's going to be sustained like 10 degrees or colder, I turn that to the anti-freeze mode, and it keeps it at a nice 46 in here. There is something that I will show you later on that allows you better control of that, and you don't necessarily need to go with this unit if you don't have that. And this one had a warranty. So back in the day, you had to get this, at least the refrigerant lines, installed by a licensed HVAC contractor to be able to get the warranty on this. So what I did all the electrical work. I put that box that you'll see outside. I ran the refrigerant and the drain line outside. All the guy had to do was hook up the outdoor unit to the indoor unit. It was ready to go. It cost me $150 to have an HVAC guy come out and do that for me. I did most of the work for him. Now, if I was to do this again, this is not sponsored by anybody, but I would recommend looking at the Mr. Cool units, because that is a complete DIY solution. They pre-charge the lines for you, and they have their warranty. Now, if you only needed 15 foot of line, this is just an example. If you only needed 15 foot of line and Mr. Cool only offered 20, you would have to find a place to hide that extra 5 feet of line. I just pulled those numbers out of my DIYTyler hat here. I don't know if that's true or not. You have to look that up on Mr. Cool's website. Those numbers are true. That's what I'm saying. I know it's true that you have to find a place to put the coiling lines, but I don't know if those lengths are actually a real thing. So that is why I went with this unit. And another thing I did, which I wouldn't do again, is I oversized this unit. Now, it's typically cold here in Michigan, so I wanted to get something that had a little more oomph for the space. And I was also thinking at some point I'm going to move that wall, or I was thinking I was going to move the wall. I don't know if I'm ever going to do that, but I was thinking the shop was going to get bigger, so I wanted to be able to have a better cooling capacity. Now, the problem with such an oversized unit as this, it heats nice, but it doesn't run long enough in the summer to actually pull the moisture out of the shop. So I noticed that it would be a comfortable 70 degrees in here or 72 degrees here in the summertime, but my moisture content was super duper high. Let's try not to knock this camera over. And I do have just a really cheap thermometer and is that a hydrometer, moisture meter in here, with a clock that I just keep track of things. So like it's 53% moisture in here right now, 47 degrees. I just turned that on, so that's why it's at that. And it's actually, I think it's actually like 4:45 because I never changed the time, and we're in daylight savings time now. So that's how I keep track of my moisture. Now, to combat that, I actually don't run this Gree mini split on cooling mode, air conditioning mode, unless I'm in the shop. So I turn that off, and I make sure my dehumidifier is running in the meantime to control the moisture in the shop. Because if your moisture gets too high, you'll get rust on your tools, and if you know you're going to be building something, you need your moisture content to be at a point where it's not going to be putting moisture back into the wood. So you want to be up. I like to keep it around 55% in the summer as well. Otherwise, it gets a little bit too dry in here. And then you'll still need your wood to be about 7. You got to bring it in here and acclimate before you work on it and whatnot. So this cost me about $1,700 to get. This was about 5 years ago now. I don't know what they cost now. I'm sure times are different, so I'm sure things are going to be a little bit more expensive. But it cost me $1,700 to get shipped to the door. It has a warranty. I don't remember how many years, and it cost me $150 to have an HVAC guy come in. I had to get some 10 gauge wire, I think, some 3-conductor 10 gauge to run out here, a proper sized breaker, which is going to vary depending on the size of mini split that you get. But a relatively not huge expense to install, and I've had, knock on wood, knock on tool, I've had no issues with this. I haven't had anyone come back to see if it needs to be recharged or anything like that, but I have literally like 10 foot of line So I don't have a lot of places for loss. Now, on this particular one, I think we can pop the cover open, and it desperately looks like I need to clean the filters off. Very much so. I probably should have done that before I filmed the video. But anyway, these pop right out of here so we can clean up those filters, just run them underwater. And as you can see, it has a louver, which you can make stationary in place, or you can have it move up and down as you see right now. You can change all of that with the remote control. Now let's go outside here and check out the outdoor unit. Hey, look at that. Got some geese in our pond, which is overflowing right now because it is springtime. It's warming up. As you can see, I'm in a hoodie, so this unit actually doesn't run very, very often this time of year. But even if we got some snow piled up out here, I'll make sure it's shoveled out of the way. And this thing has been able to heat the shop, which is right on the other side of this wall here. Even in the coldest stretches of winter, when it's like 7 degrees out here, it'll keep that shop right about 60 degrees. Although when it is that cold, about 60, 64 degrees is about the maximum I've ever tried to warm this up into, and it does fine. It works hard, but it gets it in there. As you can see, the shop is inside. Like I said, this is the window that's right underneath the lumber rack. But if I stand right in front of this unit, you can hear it. You can hear the fan blowing. You can see it blowing the grass right here, but that's really it. So this is a much bigger unit, as I mentioned before, than I need for this shop space, but doesn't really take up much room out here, and we're able to blend it into the outer section of the barn here very, very well. So in my case, there is 240 volt power right here, and that runs to the outdoor unit, and from the outdoor unit, the indoor unit picks up this cable right here, and this is the 120 that goes inside and powers the indoor unit. So this is my 240 volts coming out right here, 120 going back into the house. These are my return and my feed refrigerant lines, and then we have a condensate line right here, which does nothing in the wintertime, but in the summer when it's very humid, that thing will be pouring water out of that spout as it's dumping water out of as it's sucking that moisture out of the interior of the shop. Now, something I did add recently, because I have a Wi-Fi network out here in the shop which connects to the house, that's kind of new news as well, is this little doohickey right up here. And this is from this Celio Breeze company. Celio Breeze Eco makes any air conditioner smart. So I called the distributor that I bought this unit from because I thought when I bought it that I could get a Wi-Fi control unit. Turns out this is an older model. They probably don't sell this one anymore, but the new one has Wi-Fi integrated if you were interested in something like that. But with this guy, this is basically just an infrared controller, and now I have complete control over Wi-Fi from my phone. I'm going to pop that up right here, and it's fantastic. So this actually has a lot of... The wife is calling. Yep. Yeah. Okay. That was good timing. So, as you can see, this is my controller right here. And so I can turn it on and off. If I know I'm going to be coming out in the shop, I can turn it on 20 minutes beforehand in the winter to get it nice and cozy. Now, the best thing about this, remember I mentioned I got this unit specifically for that antifreeze at 46 degrees? Well, you can set this on an e-saver mode, and then you can set one of those modes. You have multiple modes in there, right? So you can go in and set one of those at a comfy temperature, and you can hold that, and it's highly adjustable from 40 to whatever degrees. So I've gone in here with this remote control app and taken what used to be 46 degrees and lowered it to 40 or raised it to 50 if I had a finish curing in here or an epoxy curing in here that I needed to make sure it stayed a little bit warmer overnight. That thing also has data logging. It can tell you how long it has ran. It is super cool, and I think it costs like, I think it was about 70 bucks. It might have been a little bit less than that. Totally worth getting that. Now, I used to send Ethan out here to turn it on, but that is super handy. Is it a first world problem? Absolutely, but it is super nice. Now, As I mentioned before, this will heat in the dead of winter here in Michigan. If it's going to be like -10, -15, I'm probably not going to be out here in the shop anyway. And when I am out here, I tend to keep it in the turbo mode because it'll blow the warm air all the way to the other side of the shop, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, is about 30 feet away. Now, if I'm standing here in the corner, it will feel a little bit more chilly. If I'm down here on the ground, you can feel that the ground level is a little bit cooler. This is a slab in this barn. So unless I was running that mini split for a long, long time, it's not really going to warm that slab up. That is one thing I do. If I know it's going to be very cold for a while, I will keep that anti-freeze mode on, whatever level it is. And the ribs are done. At whatever level it is, so that this slab will stay a little bit warmer and I'm not fluctuating huge temperature differences here in the shop. Now that is how I heat the shop with the Gree mini split. Highly recommend a mini split in conjunction with the dehumidifier and the Cilio remote control. It is a system that can't be beat. I hope this helps some of you out. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments down below. I will try to answer those for you guys. If it did help you out, please hammer that thumbs up button as it helps us out and gets this video in front of more eyes. I'm DIYTyler, and you guys have a good one.